unfiltered discussions, unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hello and welcome. It's Monday night. I hope you had a nice weekend. We got a great show lined up for you. Going to be action-packed. We'll cover a recent study that says tumultuous circumstances, that is chaos, difficulty, complex projects at the beginning of your career could be the golden ticket to pay raises down the line. So if your career was rough at the get-go, chances are it was probably good for you. That'll be in about 10 minutes' time. Then we'll travel to outer space, or at least talk about traveling to outer space, as we study the latest in the search for extraterrestrial life, including what the atmosphere of distant planets is made of and why we're looking for certain candidate gases to tell us that there be aliens. Where we are with that search halfway through the hour. All right, that's just some of what you're going to hear tonight. Let's jump in. The only man on this show
with a number in his name
that has a theme song. I thought it was spelled P-H-I-V-E.
You don't need to be racist, David. Carry on. Hello, David Cooper. Hello, world. It is I, Tony 5, and today is Memory Day.
Memory Day?
Yep. Isn't it your bank holiday over there?
Oh, yeah, Memorial Day. Yeah. I'm here in the U.S., yeah.
There you go. We all remember.
Yep.
We all remember.
Yep.
Never forget, David. Never forget.
Well, here we are working, and yes is the answer to the question. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show. We're here with Tony 5 in London, England.
Do you guys over there have bank holidays?
Yeah, but we call them just holidays.
Holidays, yeah. Weird, right? When you start thinking about it, bank holidays, it's just like a day where a bank is on holiday. But technically now, because a lot of the stuff's done on internet, most days are holidays for banks, right?
Yes, and it's a day where a bank doesn't have to give you your money. It's kind of rude.
Well, it's like, does a bank go to the Bahamas? Why is it a holiday for the bank? What do they do?
They let their employees take a vacation day.
Yeah, but they could take it any day. I mean, every day's a holiday for the bank, really, isn't it, when you think about it? They've all got the money. Not like they haven't, David.
I mean, unless you keep it in your mattress.
That's one to think about, David. That's one for the viewers.
I've always thought about this. This is like the best business idea ever.
Go on.
It's like, here's the value proposition. You give me all your money and I'll hold on to it for you.
I'm in.
End of list. And like, we trust banks. Like, what are they giving us? Like, I know, yeah, sure, like, okay, electronic payment, checks.
Interest.
But by and large, all they're doing is holding their money for us, and they're investing it. They're using our money to make money. And why? Why do we let them do that?
Is it me, or I think historically, the banking was started by the Knights Templars, weren't they? That's how banking first started. This Roman Catholic order of religious knights who would allow free passage for Christians to go. So what they did is, because these Christians were getting mugged, getting held up on their route from, I don't know, the Bronx to San Diego, for example, they would get like robbed, right? Because they carried their money. So what the Knights Templars would do, they set up banks. They said, okay, here's an IOU. You take it and it can be cashed the other side. And they used to take a little side hustle from that. And that's how banking was first created.
That is not, I mean, yes, that was a thing, but banking comes way before that, like way before the birth of Christ.
Okay, the year before that,
No.
Somebody built Barclays. Okay, David, you always have to be right. Whatever, yes.
The ancient Romans had banks, like like ancient Greece, in the Middle East, in the Fertile Crescent, in Assyria, all these places had banks, Tony.
What was it called then if it wasn't called American Express? Was it called like Syrian Express?
They just called it Amex back then.
They didn't expand upon it. Oh, that's fair enough.
No, you're right that that happened, in the Holy Roman Empire, but banking existed before that.
Oh, which one was first?
Your anecdote is correct, but not that it was the foundation of banking.
Okay, because I thought that was before the Romans.
No. Holy Roman comes after Roman.
Oh, so it's Holy Roman, whole Roman.
No. Roman was before they became Christians.
Right.
And then Holy Roman with like the Pope and the Knights Templar and all this, that came after the Romans.
All right, when did ramen come in?
That came many years later out of Japan. They are closely related, though.
All right, cool. I mean, do you know what? This show is not only educational, but it's informative, David.
And we have some breaking news from London, England. We are here with meteorologist, expert,
Yes,
factuinator.
that's right.
Tony Five.
Mercurial, meteorological, scientific, David. I'm guessing you want to know what the weather's like over here, David.
Let me guess. It has something to do with rain.
It's raining, David.
Wow. It is raining in the United Kingdom.
Yep, that's it for today, people. Tune in tomorrow.
Tony, last week on the show, we did Donnie's dog dilemma.
Yes, David.
Donnie Dives dog dilemma, actually.
We did. I need to update you, David. So I need to make a decision. I've been thinking today, all on Memorial Day, Bank Holiday Monday, whatever you want to call it, this week, the earlier the better, about whether to keep Frank, or his full name, Frank von Frank III.
Frank von Frank, and he's a chocolate lab?
So he is a mix of a chocolate lab and like a spaniel and a bit of Staffordshire Bull Terrier. The sad story is he was abandoned in London twice. He was chipped. When they found him the second time, the family who owned him said, just keep him. And they sent him to a kennel. And here you can't have a dog indefinitely in a kennel. So they were going to put him down. So a charity rescued him. I took him. And weirdly, there's some weird things that have happened recently. You have microchipping in the US, I bet,
Yeah, of
right?
course. Yeah,
all animals are microchipped. So when they're microchipped,
not all, but many.
Yeah, like legally, like most old dogs in the UK have to be microchipped for whatever reason.
That's not the case here, but many owners do. And all shelters will just before they even put out a pet for adoption.
Right. And so for this dog, when they scanned his chip, he was legally dead. So this is like Jesus of dogs. He's risen from the grave.
Wow. You should call him the second coming of dog?
I mean, wouldn't that be weird to call a dog Jesus and just shout in there, Jesus! Get over, you bad Jesus.
There are parts of the world where people have the name Jesus and it's no problem.
Yeah, but not Jesus. I know Jesus. That's like, I think that's an Indonesian name, isn't it?
No. It's just Spanish. That's just Spanish for Jesus.
Whatever. Bolivian. So you've got that.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of Anglophone countries that use the name Jesus. No.
Yeah. So like Jesus I know there's Jesus, but I've never heard of anybody called like Jesus Cooper. Have you? I mean, that would be great, right?
Jesus Cooper.
The other JC, Jesus Cooper.
It's got a nice ring to it, I gotta say.
I'll be honest with you. As I said it, I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty good, you know?
And he was a Jew.
He was a Jew. Do you know what, David? He weren't you, but he was a Jew. So yeah, I mean, Jesus 5 sounds good.
Now, okay, so you've got this dog. You're fostering him. He's legally dead. He's risen from the ashes. What else weird happened with him?
So, like, and I've got really attached to him. He's got really attached to me. My whole life would have to change because of the travel and so on. And I do a lot of traveling, if people don't know. And, I've got quite a small place, and you always have to then prepare, like, to do anything, right? Because you've got a dog, you've got a creature to be responsible for. So the thought of giving him away and the thought of letting him be adopted by someone else is like heartbreaking. But also the thought of keeping him and not being able to look after him and hand him back is even worse. So I'm trying to make a sensible, refined, intelligent decision.
But don't you get to choose?
Boy. Oh, you're a good boy, there, good boy.
Don't you get to choose how you structure your life with travel and stuff? Like, can't you make changes to welcome in your new best friend?
Correct. I would. And, it's weird that I would choose a life where I'm walking up and picking up someone's poop, right? That's a weird life choice, isn't it?
I mean, I scoop the poops out of my kitty's box. It's the same thing.
Yeah, I guess so. And he does sit on your head sometimes, doesn't he, your cat?
He's more of a shoulder sitter.
Yeah, this dog. Have you heard of a dog's lipstick?
No.
Okay, so he has a lipstick which pops out at the most inopportune moments, and it's huge.
A lipstick? Oh, boy. You mean his cosmetics is what you're saying, nothing else.
Yeah.
Tony, thank you. That's all the time we got for you. Tony 5, our foreign correspondent, will be back later in the hour to go over news you can't use. We always have so much fun doing the most hilarious news stories of the day. After the break, if you had a really tough go at the beginning of your career, like a project that was way too hard, you got thrown into the deep end with zero instructions, well, that might have been the best thing for your career ever, according to a new study. And we'll discuss how workplace chaos early on in your career could be your golden ticket. Details after the break. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
last show with David Cooper. Procrastinate your life away with us.
Ever feel like your first job threw you into the chaos, threw you into the deep end with zero instruction? Well, it turns out that might have been an amazing thing for your career. A new study says that workplace chaos, for example, complex projects when you're just a beginner, could be your golden ticket to promotions, praise, and maybe even pay raises down the line. I'm here with a professor of organizations at Carnegie Mellon University who specializes in social network analysis. His name is David Krackhardt. David, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, David. It's good to be here.
I didn't read your paper because I'm not that smart, but when I read a summary of your paper, I was struck by it because my first job in computing and my first job in media, I was thrown in the deep end for both of them. I don't know if it's had good results for me, but anecdotally, I feel like it did. So let's start here. What exactly did your study find out about this? People being thrown into the deep end and sort of long-term career success.
Right. Well, one of the things that we had noticed over years, this wasn't our first study in this direction. We had seen that a lot of times projects that were high status, that one happened to be able to be associated with, tended to result in really early promotions and good evaluations and so on. And that seemed to be independent of where they came from and what their background was. So we became curious about that. But the problem with the prior work was that it's very difficult to disentangle. Good people get assigned to complex projects, to high status projects, because you need the real talent to go there. And so we couldn't tell whether or not people were just better who were introduced to those projects, like you, David. They knew that you were a real hotshot.
Your words, not mine.
Yes. But what we were able to find was this one company that randomly assigned their newcomers all the time to different projects, 6 months at a time over the first 2 years. And only after those 2 years were they actually then assigned according to their skills and so on. So it was a high-tech engineering firm with lots of complex projects and or projects of different complexity, and they randomly assigned them. So we got to actually follow whether it made a difference, not what your background was, not what your skill set was, but whether actually being assigned to a real hotshot project just by chance was going to end up being something that enhanced your career. And the answer turned out to be yes. And there turned out to be two reasons for that.
What are they? I'm with you. This is very interesting to me. For me, anecdotally, it felt like it was sink or swim. You had to learn the tricks quickly. You had to learn the breadth of the job more quickly to get it done.
Right.
Otherwise, you were in trouble. That's kind of my opinion, but I'm interested in what the study says.
Well, first of all, we found exactly what you're implying here, and that is what happens is you get thrown into a pool that's pretty deep and you have to swim. It's going to be sink or swim. You spend a lot of time learning how to swim very quickly, and learning happens. Learning happens when you go into a complex project. So you're learning. It's a steeper learning curve, but the reward is by the time you're done, you've gotten some experience that's really valuable to the firm. So that's one thing. Second thing, though, that turns out to be totally independent is that there is this mythical status associated with these highly complex projects. They have this magic standing that is not really a function of how much people learn. It's just like, it's as if, if you were in the U.S., if you're on a Super Bowl team, it doesn't matter you're a backbencher. You may not have contributed, but you still get to wear that Super Bowl ring at the end. And there's status in that. And it turns out people who had experience in one of these high status projects, people attribute nice things to them, even though they may not have really deserved it. Now, I'm not going to say
that's
that
me. That's definitely, of
no,
course.
No,
David, we know it's me. Come on.
And but it turns out that also enhanced their ability to actually succeed in the organization. So they developed a reputation that may or may not have been really deserved based on their real skill set. But so both of those things happened. It's not one or the other. Both of those things happen, but they happen independently. So you can take one, you can learn a lot, and you will develop some status that will be reflected on you. And the combination of those two things really enhance your ability to succeed in the organization down the road, because then it cycles through.
It's so interesting. You really do need that prestige when you first enter your career, because what sets you apart from the other people who have zero experience,
Yes.
and then the ability you need to be able to do the job. And I feel like that small amount or maybe medium amount you get early on really pays dividends down the road. You're taking
Right.
that first leap above your peers.
Right. We found the status helped even if you weren't one of the high learners, even if so that the status, in fact, just gives you another pathway to get to those opportunities down the road that really pay off.
Practically speaking, how do you think this applies to, say, any random startup in Silicon Valley or any random investment bank in Wall Street? What takeaways should they take from your study to try to structure things early on for their entry-level employees?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I think what we find is that that typical firms, what they do is they take their newcomers and they try to fit them where the project does the best job of taking advantage of whatever education they had, whatever skill they bring to the table. And so it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. They just say, we put our superstars in the really chaotic, highly complex projects. And look at that. We were right. We picked the superstars correctly. And what we're finding is that's probably a mistake. The firm that we studied, as a matter of fact, had considered stopping doing the random assignment and start to actually try to siphon people into projects that might be a better fit. And after our study, decided to maintain the random assignment. I think that giving people random assignments, right? And well, maybe not totally random, because what you want to do is make it balanced so everybody gets a chance to be in a high status, to have that experience and to learn and see how well they swim, and rather than just, predetermining their career outcomes by giving them assignments that either the partners or the HR committee thinks that, well, these guys are the hotshots.
And if you want to kind of create superstars and not just have people coming in who are entry level who appear to have prestige and ability, you put them on hard projects and you might have a homegrown one right there.
Right. That's right. Absolutely right. And so giving everybody a chance helps to develop the talent pool, helps to develop the whole talent pool, so that everybody, David, can be a star in your company.
What are some ways in which these benefits played out down the road? Was it just they had better titles, better salaries, better jobs? Like, what are some of the practical ways in which a random person who didn't enter the company with any market talent or any market ability or any market prestige outside of their peers, but then ended up with these benefits of having been thrown into a hard project early on?
Right. Well, there were several outcomes. One of them was raises. They actually got better raises, better bonuses. Another was they got better evaluations at the end of 2 years. 2 years was the real demarcation that we were measuring. So, and what they were given is better opportunities that were going to lead to further opportunities for promotion in the future. So we didn't follow. We have not yet followed them far enough to know what happens 10 years down the road, whether or not they are partners in the firm or real senior managers. So we don't know the answer to that yet. But the opportunities they're given at the end of 2 years in terms of their trajectories make it look like they have a big advantage.
Well, David, I look forward to having you on the show in 10 years when we can follow up and get the final results. I appreciate this chat. It's been an interesting one.
Okay, David. Thank you.
David Krackhardt is a professor of organizations at Carnegie Mellon University, and he specializes in social network analysis. After the break, the latest in the search for extraterrestrial life. Have we found it? And if we haven't, how would we find it? I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
The Last Show with David Cooper, where we apply quantum mechanical psychoanalytical astrotherapy to your problems.
He has been called the Planet Hunter, but Jacob Bean isn't just chasing UFOs. He's using the James Webb Telescope to sniff out alien atmospheres light years away. We're talking about exoplanets today, the hunt for habitable worlds, and whether microbes might be partying somewhere far, far away, stinking up the air in a distant planet. He's an astronomer and professor at the University of Chicago. Jacob, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
It's interesting to me, daydreaming about extraterrestrial life as a kid, that the hunt today is really just about looking at the gas in the atmosphere in distant planets and trying to make sense of it. What exactly are you looking for when you study the atmosphere of a distant planet? What would make it so that if you saw some distant gas in the atmosphere of some distant place, you could say, hey, life is there?
So I want to back up just a second.
Do it.
If we look at, there's a wide variety of planets that orbit other stars, and one of the driving questions to study those planets in more detail is to understand how planets form and evolve, and then more specifically to address the question of, are there other Earth-like planets out there that have life? And so when I'm looking at the atmosphere or trying to see the atmosphere of an Earth-like planet, what I'm looking for are gases in the atmosphere that are indicative of life, that are the smoking gun evidence for life, that show that the chemistry of the atmosphere is out of whack, let's say, is out of equilibrium. And there's gases that shouldn't be there because they would be reacting with other gases or with the rocks on the surface of the planet, and would be pulled out of the atmosphere. So on Earth, the best smoking gun evidence for life in the atmosphere is the presence of oxygen gas that's produced by photosynthetic life. If we killed off all the life on the Earth, God forbid, today, all that oxygen would be sucked out of the atmosphere by chemical reactions with the surface rock in a few tens of thousands of years. And an alien observer looking at the Earth would look at the atmosphere, see no oxygen, and then move on and say there's no life on that planet.
So I've got two lines of thinking here. One, we're kind of looking for the conditions of maybe early Earth when there was plants and microbes spitting out oxygen. So that's what we would be looking for to answer the first question.
Well, actually, in Earth's history, only about half of Earth's history has there been oxygen in significant quantities in Earth's atmosphere. About 2.5 billion years ago, there was an event called the Great Oxygenation Event, where cyanobacteria started pumping large amounts of oxygen in the atmosphere. It actually caused a mass extinction of the existing microbes, a lot of the existing microbes on Earth, but it gave rise to the possibility of the complex life that we are today.
I was reading about this, something about at that time when life was getting poisoned by too much oxygen. It was sort of taking in other chemicals and spitting out oxygen. Something weird happened in our evolutionary history that allowed life to be able to take in the oxygen and then spit out carbon dioxide, creating like an equilibrium. Is my understanding correct there?
That's correct. I mean, the cyanobacteria 2.5 billion years ago, it's just photosynthetic life that we see around us today, plants and things like that. It was just evolutionary. They evolved to take advantage of that chemical process. You pull in carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, you take some energy out, and you spit out oxygen. And that oxygen was actually poisonous to almost all the other life forms that exist on Earth. And so when it built up in significant quantities, it led to the largest mass extinction in Earth's history. From an astronomer's point of view, what this means is if you look at an Earth-like planet orbiting another star, you don't always have a chance of seeing the kind of biosignature gas that you want to look for, the best one that we know of, which is this oxygen. If you looked in Earth's history, you'd only have about a 50-50 chance of being able to tell remotely that there's life on the planet. And even today, it would be really difficult to tell there's complex life. Since we would just be able to see oxygen, that's the most easy molecule to see for these kinds of planets, we would only be able to infer that it's photosynthetic life, which is really interesting and would raise the question, is there more complex life that's taking advantage thus of that oxygen and producing something more varied? But we wouldn't be able to see that very easily.
Another line of thinking is could there be some natural process? Like you view some distant planet, you find this oxygen, it seems like the smoking gun, but could there be some unknown natural phenomenon that isn't lifelike that creates this gas that we just don't know about yet?
That is absolutely the crux of this kind of research, is trying to find that gas and trying to find that kind of gas and know for sure that it's due to life. On Earth, oxygen is a really good biosignature. So if you knew the planet had a lot of the properties of the Earth, then you would be pretty confident. But there are other kinds of planets that orbit other kinds of stars that are in different environments. And you could imagine creating an atmosphere full of oxygen through purely what we call abiotic processes that have nothing to do with life. A simple one is just taking water molecules and splitting them apart. Water is H2O, right? If you strip the oxygen and the hydrogen apart, sometimes you can lose the hydrogen, a planet can lose the hydrogen to outer space, and then the oxygen atoms can just form with other free oxygen atoms and make an atmosphere full of oxygen. And all that just means is you had a water-rich atmosphere and you lost a lot of hydrogen. So that's absolutely one of the cruxes of this area of research, is seeing robustly the molecules that you want to see and knowing that they're due to life.
Let's talk about how we see them, because I always find this so cool. Tell me about Maroon X. Is this a tool you're using, or is it something else?
This is a tool that we're using to find the planets that we're subsequently characterizing with the James Webb Space Telescope. The Maroon X instrument, which my team at the University of Chicago built, is an instrument to measure the speeds of stars. And what we do is we measure the speeds of stars and see them wobbling back and forth, and we infer the presence of unseen planets. From those data, we can measure the masses of the planets. We can apply other detection techniques to measure the radii and determine which ones are terrestrial and which ones aren't. And then we subsequently follow up the planets with spectroscopy from the James Webb Space Telescope to study the atmospheres. Spectroscopy is just a fancy word for spread out the light and look for the absorption of different atoms and molecules.
I'm proud of myself because I've had a lot of astronomers on, and I always jokingly pretend that I think spectroscopy is a colonoscopy, and it's my big joke, but I'm sick of that joke, and I didn't do it, so let's keep it serious.
Well, you can always say astronomy is astrology. That's also the one you can use.
If I'm in a room of academics and I want them to hate me, there's no quicker way. So tell me about spectroscopy. How do we know that the atmosphere of a planet is what we is? Because we can barely see it. We're only really kind of detecting that wobble. It's not like we have clear images of it like we do of, say, Jupiter or some planet in our solar system.
The majority of planets that we're studying the atmospheres of, we don't see them at all. We only infer their existence indirectly by how they impact the star. So we see them pull on the star and we see their wobble, but for some of them, we can also see them pass in front of the star, and we can see the star become eclipsed. We don't resolve that image of a small black point in front of a bigger bright source, but we can see the dimming. And if we observe that dimming at different wavelengths of light, then we can tell what gases in the planet's atmosphere are sort of filtering the starlight as the starlight passes through it. From that kind of observational approach, we can determine what's in the planet's atmosphere.
I've had this explained to me many times, and every time I think it's so cool. Like, who even came up with this process? Like, it's so many levels of indirection and, math and computer analysis. Like, yeah, it's just such a cool process. It's a relatively new one as well.
It's pretty new. I think it's about 25 years old at this point. So depending on your perspective, you could say it's new and old. It's really come into its own with the launch of the James Webb Space Telescope a few years ago. That's basically the perfect machine for doing this. It has amazing sensitivity. We've been studying mostly gas giant type planets before JWST was launched. Now we can push down into the rocky planets, and that's opening up this vista of, can we search for life on other planets using the same technique?
Jacob, I appreciate you sharing these learnings, these facts with me. It's been an interesting chat. I appreciate your time.
It's been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Jacob Bean is an astronomer and a professor at the University of Chicago. On the other side of the upcoming break, foreign correspondent Tony Five joins us for news you can't use. We'll cover a story that involves a death, a very, very strange death, using a very strange object. It'll be respectful, uplifting, probably. Try to guess what the object was up next.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. most shows deliver serious news that you can use. As a point of differentiation, we give you news you can't use. The Last Show, with David Cooper and special foreign correspondent, Tony Five.
All the news you could never use, wouldn't want to use, and that you probably shouldn't hear at all here on The Last Show with Tony Five. Tony, we're going to get morbid, aren't we?
David, news you can't use with a Jew who's going to muse.
That's all correct.
Thank you. Yes, this is a news you can't use. It's a historic one, David. Comes in 2010, about 25 years ago.
This is breaking news. Yeah,
breaking news, my friend.
You really fit the prompt in foreign corresponding here. Only the most important news.
Only the most important news. 2010. I think I could. What we can do is we can do news, and the timeline is based on what iPhone edition is out. So we're talking iPhone 2 era.
We're ahead of all the wires. I don't even think Reuters has picked this one up yet.
There you go, David. There you go, my friend. AP News, not a clue. So yeah, 2010, 52-year-old chap in England. He was a window cleaner, my friend.
Oh.
And he came. Oh, David, he died. Any death is a sad death, right?
Sure.
He's a man, a father, a brother, a sister, a lover. Okay?
Okay.
But this guy died by the hands or the point, David, of a funny souvenir pencil, my friend.
What do you mean a funny souvenir pencil?
So if you were to Google a pencil, you can get souvenir pencils, which are huge. They're about maybe 1/2 meter long, and they're really big. They're like a comedy pencil. Like, you'd use your whole hand to write with it. You couldn't like put it between your fingers. You'd have to ball a fist, and it's pointless. And you go to various seasides around the country in England, and you'd pick these up. They're like cheesy things, right? Like the silly hats you'd get in what's that place called, Coney Island. It's just a big pencil. Like, imagine a pencil and times it by maybe 150.
Do you think this is some big pencil conspiracy, or is it big pencil conspiracy?
David.
It's the big industry that's making big pencils.
As you're aware, David, I have a sideline in conspiracy theories. This could be the work of Big Lead.
Big Lead. Okay, so he was found dead.
Well, he climbed this laser window cleaner, right? A 2-story building, climbed the ladder. Somehow, I think he'd gone up there and maybe had the pencil in his pocket. Details are sketchy, David.
I hate you so much. Was that just this whole setup, like a 5-minute setup for that one joke?
But it was really good, though, wasn't it? It was so good. Details are sketchy. And I really wanted to hold it in until the end of the show, and I really couldn't. No. I'm so sorry.
It reminds me of a dead, also, comedian. It's funny, people seem to love this guy after he died, but I always loved him when he was living, so makes me a good person. Norm Macdonald.
Norm Peterson.
What?
Oh, Norm Macdonald. Sorry, Norm Peterson's from Cheers.
Yeah.
Anyway,
on. He died over the weekend, didn't he?
He died as well.
Norm.
Yeah, Norm Peterson, the comedian who...
Macdonald.
Norm Macdonald, sorry.
Yeah.
And I'd never heard of him. And then on various TV shows, sorry to steal your thunder.
No.
So many people said that he was the comedian's comedian.
Yeah.
And he was very droll, and he did. And actually, I started this. He was on an American late night talk. Is it Conan?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Conan always got such a kick out of him.
Was it him? He had this relationship with one of the big American late
Him and
show
Conan
hosts.
always, like, he cracked Conan up big time.
Exactly. And then I've started to... When was it quite recently he passed away?
No, it was 3+ years ago. I remember, could be 4. Yeah, about 4 years ago.
And did he die of anything particularly bad or anything?
Yeah, it was like cancer or something. It was some illness that he kind of didn't talk about until the end, and kind of shocked everyone.
Okay.
He kept it in his tight inner circle that he was suffering and everything. But
Yeah.
yeah, he would go on, which is what, in my opinion, you kind of just did without realizing it. He would go and tell these jokes that were like long, and they would have these like setups that would be morbid and serious and silly, but kind of make no sense, and then just have like a dumb punchline out of nowhere, like the sketchy, and it just kind of reminded me of him, is all.
Yeah, and he's meant to be, like, I've not seen any of his stand-up. Like, there's things of his pop up on YouTube and TikTok, and like he's what, like, a lot of people say he's like their favorite comedian. They found maybe they've worked with him or whatever, but apparently he was a really nice guy. He was Canadian, which makes him even better. He was white, which obviously puts him in the top tier anyway. So, you know, he was really good. But I thought he died many, many years ago.
He was on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
Around the time of the O.J. Simpson trial. And he was on a recurring SNL segment that exists to this day called Weekend Update.
That's the one with Michael Che and the guy who's married to Scarlett Johansson.
Yes.
Yes.
But there's been many iterations of it over the last 40, 50 years. Who knows?
Wow.
SNL's been on. How old is the guy who, Lorne?
Michael J. Fox?
No.
Lorne Michaels.
Lorne Michaels. Sorry. Anyway, lost my train of thought. Oh,
He
yes.
was doing Saturday Night Live.
Norm Macdonald was covering the O.J. Simpson trial relentlessly.
Okay.
And a producer of SNL was kind of friends with O.J. or something.
Oh.
And so he told Norm to stop making jokes. Norm did not stop. And he got fired from SNL from it. For it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now he's coming back to me now. Right. And yeah, he was famously fired. And his Weekend Update, he was very close to the curb, wasn't he? He was very, very funny, but kind of walking the line between kind of acceptable and unacceptable.
Edgelord, they call them nowadays.
What'd you call him?
An edgelord.
Edgelord.
Never heard that phrase? It's like a Gen Z slang for someone who is edgy and does comedy that like approaches, perhaps even crosses that line of offending people. I mean, maybe it has more to do with like posting online, but it's sort of appropriate here. They sort of live it on the edge of constantly offending people. An edgelord. I wouldn't really describe Norm as one, but that style of comedy.
Talking of edgelord, right? Do you know what an incel is?
Yeah, it's a derogatory term for like a certain type of dude.
No, but do you know what incel means?
Involuntarily celibate.
So I never knew that, right? For whatever reason, I thought incel was some sort of like terrorism type acronym. I was waiting for like a terror cell and an incel.
Yeah, that makes sense. But no, it's not involuntary because your behavior dictates whether people are going to sleep with you. And if you behave a certain way, you're going to be celibate. And if you act like an incel, you're going to be one.
But so are the incels mean involuntary celibate? Involuntary means that by no choice of their own, they're celibate, correct?
Yeah, but it is the choice because when you like engage in these activities that are like hating on women and stuff, they're not going to want to sleep with you.
So why is it such a big thing? I'm completely out of the generation and I don't get it. So I just thought there was virgins and non-virgins. Where did this incel come in? Where is it squeezed into? What gap has it filled?
It's just a label of a certain strata of society that kind of acts in a certain way and consumes certain kinds of media and follows certain kinds of influencer, predominantly dudes.
Yeah, like the Andrew Bate guy, right?
Tate.
Yeah, I know he likes Tates, David. We're not trying to be derogatory, okay? But what I'm saying is, does he support incels or is he against incels?
I honestly, we should have an expert on because we've hit the.
It's so confusing, isn't it?
We've hit the. I also just like don't care about this stuff, you know. Like I know what I need to know to like understand when people are talking about it, and that's it. I'm not an expert.
Okay, well, if there's anybody out there listening, please call in the show. David knows the number, 111-555-4488, whatever it is, and tell me what an incel is. Are you an incel? If you're involuntary celibate, that's fine. If you're an involuntary cellmate, so you're in prison and an incel. So you're an incel in a cell, call up the show.
You're inviting an odd group of people to call in, but the number is 1-888-505-6644. Tony 5 and I shy not from the odd ones.
And we shy not from the hard-hitting stories of today, David.
All right. Just like we covered about 30 minutes ago, it's raining in the UK. The news you need from our foreign correspondent in London, England.
It stopped raining now, David.
Wow. No, you're not going to get reporting like this on any other station than the one you're listening on to. Than the one you're listening to now.
Especially with the three-letter acronyms, you know, CNN, BNN, FNN, M&Ms.
There you go. Such an idiot. Tony, thank you.
Pleasure.
Up next, the wonder of some ancient Peruvian carvings in the desert that could be made by aliens or ancient peoples. What are they? Find out soon.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Keep listening to The Last Show with David Cooper, because the alien invasion can wait. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Curiosities, oddities, strangeties, weirdities, bizarrities, bafflingities. Only some of these are words, but we'll cover all of them with Noah Cappe on Noah versus the Unknown. Answers will be answered, questions will be questioned, and this was the longest nonsense introduction I've ever given anyone. Noah, welcome to the show.
You know, for over a decade, I had to describe deep fried carnival food to people at home in a different way. Every week, I had to take 7 items that were fairly similar, but describe that in a different way. Every week, I so look forward to your introduction of me because you find a creative new way to say the same thing. Here's a guy in his sweatpants who's spending a ton of time on the internet. Let's chat.
His credentials, sweatpants, and the internet. Speaking of carnivals, a bit of a trail off. We're both from Toronto. You were born there, right?
Born and raised, yeah.
There's something called the CNE. There's like the X. Yeah. It's like a big fair thing for those who don't know. And therein, I don't know if this is a Toronto thing or a fair thing, but they have deep fried butter for sale. Yeah. And I've tried to explain this to people before, and they don't understand how the butter doesn't melt. Have you had it? And also, can you explain it to us?
Season 2, 9 years ago, that's an OG for the hardcore. If the people that do it right, they take when you go to a restaurant and they have like a little dish of like butter balls, they're like, like just literally balls of butter, but they're so hard. And when you try to spread it, it just rips the bread apart. They take those like frozen butter balls, batter, fry them. And if they do it right, when you pop it in your mouth, when you bite into it, just warm butter kind of blows out. But it's a fine line. A lot of people overdo it and the butter seeps out and you bite into nothing.
Yeah. So hard getting good deep fried butter these days.
You know what I mean? But I got a guy. I'll send you his info. I got a guy.
All right. We've officially wasted the we might win an award. Most time wasted on the radio awards. Nazca lines. We go to the Nazca Desert in southern Peru where strange, almost crop circle-like. Actually, they don't look like crop circles, but they are divots in the sand and the soil that look odd, that an ancient people made. Why, what, who, how, when, then, if, but.
That's it, man. You know what? I've never heard anybody kind of like connect the dot to a crop circle, but I do understand what you mean in the sense of there's all types of drawings. There's trapezoids and lines and figures, and we're going to get into all that detail in just a second. But I do understand that kind of like that feeling of something that's been put into the ground that just feels otherworldly. That is the Nazca lines. And as always, with AI and everything now, they're discovering new ones, new designs, things that were buried that they didn't get a good kind of view of before. For people that don't know, this is Peru. This is the Nazca Desert, and this is a group of people that were living somewhere around, let's say, a couple hundred years to a couple hundred years after Christ, like, maybe 200 BC, somewhere around there. And what a plane in the 1920s flying over the area saw was these massive drawings in the ground that you could only see from the sky. And that is one of the intriguing parts of this, right? Why do these massive symmetrical drawings that from the ground, you have no idea what it is until you're thousands of feet in the air? They're very cool. You've seen, obviously, some of the different images.
Yeah, some are just like trapezoids, shapes, geometry. There's a crazy looking one of a monkey. They really do vary in what they are.
Yeah, there's over 1,000, and there's probably more. Some of the most famous ones are the hummingbird, which is like a beautiful symmetrical drawing of a hummingbird. There's the monkey with a big spiral tail. There's the hands, which is super interesting. One hand has 5 fingers, one hand has 4. There's a tree. There's an orca. There's another one, a whale swimming with what looks like a knife. There's all kinds of stuff. So, the question becomes, as always, what were these? Because this is a massive undertaking. And the drawings you can kind of wrap your head around, but there are also these lines that people kind of refer to like runways, or it looks almost like a map.
Sure.
Carved out of the top of this mountain peak.
I love how the Peruvians just like put their highways through some of them. Like there's a picture of what's called the Pan America Highway, and like just on the side of the road are these ancient like soil desert carvings. It's kind of funny to me. Awful also that they're ruining this stuff.
It cuts right through this like tree of life drawing.
Yeah.
But, so it's super cool. The way that they did it is the soil there is like this kind of reddish brown color. And they would, whether it was their feet, a piece of wood, whatever it was, they would drag something or move something along the dirt, which would remove this top layer and reveal this untouched, fresh, kind of almost white sand underneath. Because of the lack of wind, because of the arid kind of like environment there's really not a lot of wear and tear. So these lines landed up kind of getting baked into the sand. And here, thousands of years later, they are like in 4K, some of them. They're flawless. What are they, though? That's the question. I mean, your gut, because we always tend to kind of cover both sides for people at home. You tend to lean more towards science, and I tend to lean towards the unknown. What are you thinking?
I think it's just a bunch of ancient art in the soil,
Right.
you know?
Right.
I mean, what else could it be is the question.
I mean, listen, on this one, it's like I can connect the dots to whether it's an astrological calendar or it's a agricultural calendar, that these items represent, fertility and all the different, things like that. The part that for me is the weird element that does bleed into the unknown are the lines, are not the drawings, but these massive carved out trapezoidal geometrical lines that looks like a map or something. But what's so wild about it is that the top of this mountain is like, it's like clear cut off. It almost as if it's just been cut clean right on this massive, massive edge.
Don't tell me it's an ancient UFO landing site, Noah.
I mean, listen, it looks like a runway, man.
Oh, man.
It looks like a runway.
What about irrigation ditches? Most like, for example, the Sahara Desert, it used to be fertile. There's probably remnants of irrigation from ancient peoples. Like, could be something like that.
Oh, and listen, this is an advanced culture. I mean, look, we're thousands of years after the pyramid. So if they can do that, then obviously people know what they're doing. But there are lots of cool things sprinkled around Nazca. The band of holes, this massive row of these similar shaped dug holes that are in this geometrical line that stretches for a mile or so. What were they? Were they collecting rainwater? It's on a downslope. They have these spiral type tunnels that go down into these holes in the ground. Scientists believe, archaeologists believe that they were using like wind to blow around these spiral kind of like tubes that would lead into these holes in the ground to push water through. So again, an advanced civilization doing unbelievable things. Why this giant, like cut, shaved, geometrical trapezoid map? Really, if you get a chance, jump online and check out the Nazca lines. They are so cool.
I'll have fun with you for a second.
Yeah.
Ancient astronauts, ancient civilizations visiting us and building a runway. Go nuts. What, in your wildest dreams, with dubious evidence, what could it be?
Look, as always, you've got people who are looking to the stars and looking to the skies to try to, put answers together. Why put drawings on the ground that can only be seen from the sky, from the heavens? Why have beings that,
Religion. You could think ancient deities were looking down. There was
100%. But I will always go to the same argument, which is I don't discount the fact that maybe the stories from the Bible or from things about people witnessing something descending in a fiery whatever. I just think that fiery whatever was probably made out of metal. I think that angel was probably an intelligent life form, and that these interactions that happened in these time periods that shaped humanity in these stories are true, but they just weren't angels and gods the way we think of them, as much as maybe just visitors from another place.
You and I are so different. However, I do find this stuff fascinating and fun to talk about. So like this, we connect. I'm here with Noah Cappe. It's Noah versus the unknown. When we come back, we'll go deeper than the desert through to the ocean floor. There are holes there. Who knows what they are? And then we might even step into the fifth. Who knows? The sixth dimension. We'll be back with Noah Cappe in a second.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. taste the forbidden fruit of knowledge. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Oh man, it'd be too easy to play the X-Files theme. I'm here with Noah Cappe. It's Noah versus the Unknown. We are discussing strange occurrences in ancient things, in geological things, and between him and I, because sometimes we get into little arguments. Noah, welcome back to the show.
Always a pleasure, buddy. I'm looking forward to arguing with you today.
It's funny how we look to the cosmos, exoplanets, James Webb, the moons of Jupiter for life, when the ocean floor is like wildly unexplored. We discover new things every time we go down there. Are the Atlanteans down there? I think not. But I do think there's a lot we don't know about our ocean, especially the sea floor. And that's where thousands of holes were discovered.
Yeah, this is a weird one. Look, everybody's heard that term or the expression about we know more about space than we do our own oceans, that we have explored, mapped, and learned more about the universe than the oceans right here on our planet. Every now and then you'll stumble across a video of a camera at a depth that's never been seen before, and the creatures down there, I mean, bioluminescent stuff that looks like it's got LED lighting in it. I mean, there's unbelievable things happening in our oceans, but this story is a quirky, weird one. I think it coming off of this big movement right now of people starting to acknowledge that UAPs and UFO sightings are picking up, that there's more whistleblowers, and that a lot of them are saying they're coming out of the oceans, and that this isn't a from space thing, that they are going into and coming out of our oceans, and that is where they are hiding.
So the Atlanteans are trolling us, is what you're saying.
Literally reverse trolling us. They're putting a line above the water and flying underneath it. That's a fishing term for people that don't know. I'm
a bit of an angler myself. Little known fact about me. My dad dragged me fishing as a kid, and so I know how to do it. Do I like it? Not really, but I can tie a clinch.
Right.
And an improved clinch. Those are fishing knots, and I'm boring everybody. The holes on the ocean floor.
Look,
are they craters? Are they? Why are they so odd?
What's so weird about these is that you're talking about miles and miles long of these holes that are in eerily geometric kind of like layout, that they're spaced and just done in a way where it just looks odd. The distance, the width of them, there's some that are 5 to 10 meters. You're talking about 15 to 30 feet approximately wide, and then anywhere from 1 to 5 meters deep. But there's somewhat of a consistency in the size. Now, obviously, the first thoughts were, is it methane? Is it gases under the ocean floor? Is it, bubbling up, all these, whatever. They've done a lot of testing and a lot of different experiments, and they're not getting levels or readings on those types of elements. So this is still sitting in the unknown category. Really can't figure out 100% what's causing them. They figured out why they're not filling in and why they're staying visible, but they don't know where they came from.
And they're off the coast of like Los Angeles kind of area, a little bit north of there, near Big Sur.
Yeah, off the coast of Cali, running a big section up the coast. And there was like a wind. They were looking at doing an installation in the ocean there, and they were like, wait a sec, what are these holes, whatever. And then that just opened up this door to this discovery. And it's still on the table, still trying to figure out what these are, where they came from.
My first reaction was like little asteroids, maybe, little raining down of meteorites.
That's just so many in such a kind of, geometric laid out type of format. It just feels odd. And I would have gone with, like pressure, water, methane, something kind of, popping up from below, but they're not getting those readings at all. Bum, 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 bum.
All right. The next 5 minutes comes to you courtesy of our producer, Danny, who I love. She gave you and I a story about mysterious particles in physics. And it was just so funny to me that she suggested that you and I discuss this. We are not physicists, but we'll do our best. And I was saying to Noah, this is like particle physics for dummies. And the dummies aren't you, listener. The dummies are us. But let's do it anyway.
We're going to do it. This is one of those where I used to say the same thing on Carnival Eats. sometimes somebody describing something to you like they're a 3-year-old is actually really nice to receive. You can process that information. And we're going to do exactly that because that's how I learned about what's going on here.
A couple months ago, I had this tech guy on my show, and I don't know if you know this about me, but before I got into media, I was in software development.
Right.
And so I thought I'll explain to the listener what quantum computers are.
Yeah.
Because I understand them, because I studied computers.
Yeah.
It was 5 minutes of me in a mental corn maze. Hopefully this is not that. Dark matter is responsible for a lot of the gravitational stuff we observe out there in the cosmos. We don't know what it is, but we know it's there because we can observe its effects on like the orbits of stars and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
A lot of explanations have been put forward. None have been accepted by the scientific community. The scientific community has kind of proved it's there, but they don't know what it is. That sets the stage here.
That sets the stage. And I am, of course, going to sprinkle in my classic Noah versus the unknown angle. Recently, there was another military whistleblower who came out and was talking about the fact that we're living in a dream. This is like a matrixy type of whatever, and that we have been given a constructed and contained version of like math and sciences and all of those things, that we are working within parameters, that there are things that we just get to an edge where we're like, we can't explain this. And that is because we've been given these parameters. Other dimensions, things that we're starting to discover through these potential experiment concepts, fermions. Okay, so fermions are like basically electrons, photons, all those things. Imagine them together. These things are in this experiment, they're hoping to prove that they are entering a fifth dimension, that when they lose contact, that when there's a weird reading, that when there's an anomaly in the measurements of these protons and electrons and photons, that means that they are leaving, that they are going to this other space, this other dimensional space. And this is mainstream science. This isn't wacky kind of, out there stuff.
And then this like pocket dimension exhibits gravity, and that explains like dark matter. Is that the kind of thinking here?
Well, the simplest way to put it is that dark matter would be the connecting piece from us to this other dimension, that it's dark matter that is allowing all of this to happen. It is existing a lot of the time in another dimension, which is why we can't measure it. We can't see it. We can't get readings on it. It's constantly in flux, and we can't get a standard kind of grab lock on it. It's because it is kind of operating in this multidimensional space.
Your excitement and enthusiasm makes me almost believe what you're saying makes sense.
Yeah, because I'm on here all the time talking about Atlanteans and Egyptians and a reptilian coming off of a spaceship, to have real science stepping up saying, hey, just like the quantum computing stuff that's been happening, tying into what you were saying about how are these computers doing it? Oh, well, we just think that they're tying into other multiverses and computing with them.
No, they're taking an observed effect that a kind of a particle can be in two positions at once. It's called superposition, and using it to do computation. That's it.
Which is, well, you say that's it, but two places at the same time, and one of those places not being a place that we, You're
constrained by the way you view the world. The way the world works at a very small level is just fundamentally different, and that's okay. Like, I don't.
You know what? I heard a great explanation about this experiment that we're talking about, this whole theory about a fifth dimension. The simple way that they were explaining it was that we live in a world where, imagine it's up, down, left, right, and that this experiment, this is basically revealing a shortcut, that there is like a way to go from up to down or from side to whatever in a way that isn't a line that we're familiar with. That is a simple way to kind of like imagine,
It's a good explanation of how higher dimensions work, actually.
Well, maybe we're not as big an idiots. Well, that sentence actually implied that.
Speak for yourself, Noah. Speak for yourself.
I often do.
Noah Cappe, TV host. He joins me for Noah versus the Unknown. Noah, it's a pleasure having you on the show.
I just want to know, are we doctors now? Do we get like degrees? Do we just talked about a lot of...
No, I don't.
No, nothing? We don't get a certificate?
We could submit this to a university and hope for an honorary doctorate, but I'm pretty sure we'll get our emails blocked is what'll happen there.
Yeah, or a brick through the window. That was a blast, buddy.
Noah, what a pleasure. After the break, remember in school multiple choice tests? Might there be a way to tweak them to make students smarter? That up next. This is The Last Show, and I'm David Cooper.
We're here because your heightened awareness deserves heightened entertainment. The Last Show with David Cooper.
I have always thought that those multiple choice tests you got in school were a game of guess what the teacher was thinking. But what happens when there's more than one right answer? What happens when those multiple choice questions are made a little harder? Today we're going to discuss this with Dr. Yusuf Oc. He joins me to talk about how trickier multiple choice tests might actually make us smarter, and why a little stress during test time might be good for your brain. He's a senior lecturer in marketing at the Bayes Business School at the University of London. Yusuf, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, David, for the invitation. And thank you for actually briefly summarizing what we did so clearly. That's amazing. I cannot do that.
Oh my God. That's why they pay me the big bucks. I have acid flashbacks. I have nightmares. I don't know if in the UK you had this, but growing up in Canada, and I know they had them in the US, they had something called Scantron. And I'm not sure this company even exists anymore. I guess you could tell me. But they were these multiple choice questions, and I hated them. Turns out they might have made me a better student. So let's take a step back and look at why you investigated these in the first place.
Yeah, I think you might be surprised to hear that. I think that so many universities are still using the Scantron type of old softwares and stuff for multiple choice questions. Yeah, I mean, you are right. It's generally multiple choice questions are very common still, right? So especially in the different fields, like, medical faculty use a lot, and also social sciences use it a lot. So in business school, we sometimes use as well, especially when we have so many students, instead of just, letting them write some exam questions or papers and stuff. So it is very common. But one thing, students, like you mentioned, they actually get used to this type of questions, like growing up, starting from secondary school and then, college and stuff. And they feel like they have this basic understanding of how to eliminate some choices and find the right answer, even if they have a limited exposure to the subject material, right? And for us lecturers, it is really hard to assess whether they learn the material or not with this type of only single answer questions. So what we did instead, we said that, there are some studies in psychology showing that like increasing difficulty of any task actually increase also attention, like so the attention that we pay for the subject or the task. And we said, let's try to do that for multiple choice questions. And we did a field experiment with our students. Of course, we got their consent. Okay, so we are not going to force them for this little experiment of us. But what we did, we kept the questions exactly the same. So they got the same question, but for the answer choices, one group of students get single correct answer choices, and the second group of students get multiple correct answers with the same question. And of course, we did like follow-up studies, etc. I can explain if that's interesting, of course. But what we found, yes, the multiple answer questions are a bit difficult because overall average of the quizzes or tests that we did are lower for multiple answer questions. But in the end, students shared that they actually paid more attention. And we also, like I said, did some follow-up attainment tests, whether they remember the core subject or not. The students who were exposed to multiple answer questions, they pay more attention and they remember the material compared to group one, right? So we single answer question. And that was super interesting for us.
Tell me about this process of eliminating wrong answers, because this is a way our kind of mind works when we're taking these multiple choice tests that doesn't happen when we're just doing free form writing. And there might be some learning or something that happens in that is kind of interesting that you don't get when you get just a free form, open text box kind of thing.
Yeah, 100%. So what happens is this kind of a defense mechanism, if I may say, because students, instead when they see that actually they don't know the exact answer directly, what do? They said, okay, what would be the wrong answer? So I believe that might be the wrong answer. They start eliminated, and then instead of like having five options they don't have any idea about, they eliminate 2 or 3, and they increase their chance of getting it right? So they actually, increase their chance to 50% because now they are in between of 2 choices and they don't know like which one is right. So elimination also requires from the lecturer side. So you need to put like really careful choices, and it is really hard. And most of the time lecturers, since they don't have that, expertise or time to find like really close answers and stuff. And they sometimes put really obvious wrong answers, right? Wrong choices. And it makes it so simple for students to find the right answer, even if they don't have the full information about the topic, right? So there are, for example, in so many like fields, they said, okay, what are the 5 pillars of rational purchase mechanism, right? So consumer journey, that type of stuff. And students, they know something, like maybe they remember some part of it from the lecture, but if you ask them, right, what is the third step of this process, they will like, look, I don't know which one is third step, right? But they said, oh, I'm sure this is the first step and this is the last step. Let me eliminate them. And they get like 3 answers that they are not sure, and they increase their chance of getting it right by like 2 to 33%. So that is how elimination process works. And like you said, it is impossible when you have like an open text question saying that, okay, share the 5 steps of, this consumer thinking or the different processes. They would not get it, right? So he said, okay, I don't know like 5 steps. So that's the difference.
So you found with these multi-answer tests, lower performance, but like better learnings, good for the students in the long run. There seems to be kind of a disconnect here because some students are so grade obsessed. For example, like highly competitive fields like medicine. Students aren't going to like hearing that, oh, if we give you these tests where you perform worse on, you're actually going to learn more, are they?
Yeah, so you're right. But what we do, we generally look at the general average, right? So we have this bell curve of grade distribution. So we are not actually doing really like, sharp cutoff points if they are performing. If they get like lower than 60, they are going to fail. So we don't do that. We actually look at the class average and then try to understand like what is the class average. If you are above the average, you get better grades, right? So that's why students who are competitive, actually, they like this type of test.
If you grade it on a curve and not just based on the percentage correct.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I think it is fair to do that way. Because on the contrary, students generally, like competitive students, don't like simple multiple choice questions because they know that everyone will get really high grades, right? And that is actually better. They said, okay, now we can show our, performance difference or stuff. So they like it. And we saw that in our experiment as well, because we did a follow-up in-depth interviews and focus group studies. Some students said that they like the challenge, because that's how they make sure that they are, performing better, and they are also paying more attention. So it's somehow that they are getting their money's worth, right? So, and we said that, okay, so maybe this is something that we can use in the future as well.
But others, I'm sure, just said that stressed them out a little bit more, surely.
Exactly. So that is one of the drawbacks of this study, maybe not study, but the overall multiple answer type of quizzes, because you need to inform students saying that this is going to be the case, right? So test, and they will have like multiple answers. And maybe we need to talk about how they get the point deduction if they guess something wrong, because that's also the case. And that is actually making them even more stressful because so the one thing, so let's say there are 5 options, right? So 3 of them are correct in multiple answer case. So one student can just select all of them and get 3 answers correct, right? But there are 2 wrong answers as well associated to the choices. So what we do, we weren't that harsh, but in medical field, they said, even if you get one option wrong, you'll get no points at all. And the reason they explained to, medical people or doctors, they said that if you make something wrong, like make a mistake in your real life, you are dealing with people's health, right? So,
sure. So
we cannot actually tolerate this, gases and stuff. So that's why they don't give any points. But in social science, we give them partial points. And so in the example that I shared, for example, they selected all of them, 3 of them are correct, 2 of them are wrong. They only get actually 1 correct answer.
Big takeaway here is teachers designing quizzes using Scantron like multiple choice. Just don't just have one, have many. Is that like the major design change that you would have here?
Yeah, sure. There are multiple answers, and you also need to decide how they are going to lose points if they get something wrong, right? So there are some negative marking approach or no point approach. All of them should be in line with your overall teaching philosophy, or it should be aligned with the science that you are in.
Yusuf, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate your time.
No, my pleasure. Thank you.
Yusuf Oc is a senior lecturer in marketing at Bayes Business School at the University of London. After the break, a legend, my personal hero, the crowned king of Microsoft Excel spreadsheets. I'm not joking. This guy won an Excel tournament in Las Vegas. I'm honestly honored he's coming on this show. will sum it up with his favorite macro. See what I did there? Because sum's an Excel thing. This is The Last Show. I'm David Cooper. We'll be back.
Turning headline news into punchline gold. 5 nights a week. The Last Show with David Cooper.
People have called our next guest a legend, an iconoclast, a once-in-a-generation visionary, a warrior of the worksheet, a gladiator of the graphs, a Mozart of the macros, and all of those people have been me. His name is Michael Jarman, and he's a man in Canada who recently won an international competition in Vegas to become the World Microsoft Excel champion. I am in the presence of one of the greats. Michael, my goodness, I am so glad you are talking to me today.
It's an honor to be here, honestly, David. I think the honor's all mine.
Let's start here. What actually happens at the Excel World Champions in Vegas? Why is it so epic? And is it true what they say? What happens at the Excel Championship in Vegas stays at the Excel Championship in Vegas?
Certainly is true. Yeah, no, it's a reasonable question as to how one can compete to be the best at building spreadsheets. Generally, the concept is you're given some sort of like mini case study. It's usually based around some sort of game. This year, the final was based around World of Warcraft. Yeah, last year they've had Eve, they've had card games, backgammon. And essentially, you're given increasingly difficult problems to solve, sort of like model a turn, model several turns.
Can we get kind of technical here? Because I'm a bit of a nerd. I'm a dumb nerd, but a nerd nonetheless, sort of the opposite of you, a smart nerd. So they put all the numbers in the sheet, and then you got to write macros and formulas and compute things? Is that the basic?
Pretty much, yeah. You're given, so there's only like 7 levels of difficulties. The first one, like most people who have used Excel before.
Aren't there 7 layers to Dante's Inferno or Hell? That's an odd parallel here.
Certainly, yeah. I think for a lot of people, that would be the 7 circles of hell. But I think, yeah, a lot of people who've used Excel before could.
It's 9. It's 9.
Is it 9? Okay. Well, there are some bonus questions as well, so you can add those to it. But yeah, so the first levels are generally approachable by people who've used Excel, and it gets increasingly more difficult of like, yeah, here are 20 different versions of the game, model what happens in a 30-minute time period.
All right, so you're up there on stage in front of your computer.
Yeah.
I've seen esports competitions. That's when a bunch of, nerds are on stage, like playing video games like StarCraft or whatever, and there's an audience. Like, how many people are in this audience watching you and cheering you on?
Yeah, it certainly has grown. Like we're at like a proper esports arena in Vegas. I think sort of there were several hundred people there. So competitive Excel has come a long way. Like I won a previous competition about 7 or 8 years ago, but that's literally like you go and do an exam in a Microsoft boardroom with a load of other like-minded nerds, and nobody really cares about the wiser. Whereas now there's an audience, it's on ESPN. Like the media, like come and interview people afterwards. It's utterly bizarre how far it's come.
Okay, so you're up there, you win. The person you defeated, the former record holder, and this guy's got a bunch of records. He's won a bunch of years.
Yeah.
His nickname is also the Annihilator. That must be an amazing feeling to defeat the Annihilator.
Yeah. He's Andrew. It's funny because he's a very sort of calm, sort of like very sort of reserved guy. But he goes. His nickname they've given him is the Annihilator, and yeah, he'd won it 3 times in a row. So to dethrone him was certainly very nice.
What about nerves? Do you get nervous for the competition? Like, are you an anxious performer? Or are you just 100% focused and in flow mode?
I think certainly the first few minutes, and like this is the second year it's sort of been in front of an audience and on TV in Vegas. And I remember like in 2023, so the first time I went out for like the semifinals, like the first 5 minutes, I pretty much forgot everything I knew and just sort of like muddled through. I definitely think the fact that I've sort of done it, like I'd done it the year before and, a bit more experience with it helped. But if you think of all the times you're at work and you're trying to like battle with a spreadsheet and it's a bit stressful, like it's more stressful if there's hundreds of people watching you.
Are you friends with the Annihilator? Do you guys get along, or are you guys?
Yeah. It's.
Do you ever send him threatening text messages? You probably should.
No, it's a very friendly rivalry, and I would say in general it's an exceptionally sort of friendly community. Like everyone's sort of, very, very happy to sort of share tips and whatnot. I think everybody's just so happy that this is now a thing that united Excel nerds across the world.
How do you get into this? How do you even discover that this is a thing? Also, how do you realize that you like spreadsheets? I feel like the common narrative in most businesses and schools and stuff is everyone hates spreadsheets. And you know, as a man, I imagine, start loving these things. Walk me through the beginning of the journey and then how we get to the competition.
Yeah, I think that the first time I remember using spreadsheets was I was about 8 and I was tracking all of the results from the 2002 football World Cup. And I remember doing that. And yeah, I've always sort of played with spreadsheets with a child, which I think says a lot about me. But obviously to a very sort of, noddy amateur level. And then, my current job essentially is just spreadsheeting all day, or it used to be. I'm now sort of a bit more senior, so it's a bit more meetings about spreadsheets. But yeah, so that's sort of how I sort of got to get good and learn sort of more about it. I actually came across sort of the original competition that I mentioned. Like when I started work, my manager at the time was a woman called Hilary Smart, who just won the old competition. And I was like, oh, that's quite intimidating. So that's how I found out about it. Entered that one a few years later. That one folded for various reasons. And then
drugs, money, legal crime. There was a smuggling ring around the Excel competition.
I wish it was that interesting. I think the people who ran it just got bored of running it.
That was my second guess.
But then one of the old competitors, Andrew Grigalinovich, he decided that he was going to start this new competition. He decided that we were going to be televised in Vegas. And I'll be honest, I thought he was insane, but here we are.
There are records that you would like to break. It's not just about winning for you. What are some of these records you'd like to annihilate yourself? Huh? See what I did there?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be very tough to beat 3 in a row. The competition really has ramped up in the last couple of years. Somebody in the top 30 now could probably go back to 2021 and wipe the floor with me and Andrew in the final. So it really has come a long way. I think for me, there is still a more financey competition that is run by the same people called the Financial Modeling World Cup, and nobody's ever won both. So I'm currently winning in the other one this year, which is quite good for me. I'm usually second or third. So if I could do the double, that would be really incredible.
When you're in the competition, you've got 60,000 people watching you live on YouTube. Were you aware of that number at the time? Does that feed into the nerves?
Was it that many?
Yes.
Wow. Well, I clearly didn't because I wasn't aware it was that many. I know a lot of people watch it and a lot more than I thought. And I remember the first ever time we did a live Excel battle was probably about 3 years ago during COVID. I remember just before we went live, looking at the YouTube, it's there's 3,000 people watching this. Really? That's more than I was anticipating. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the whole streaming and televised aspect is really cool. And you can go back and watch it and that's amazing. But that element, I don't really think about too much. It's more just the fact that you're in an arena, you're you're on stage in the lights. And I think that's the element where the pressure comes in.
Favorite feature, macro, formula, quirk, favorite thing about Excel?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think the favorite thing about Excel is just and it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's how versatile it is. And there are a lot of people who use Excel for things that they probably shouldn't be using Excel for. They should probably use some proper grown-up programming language that I would not be very good at. Because the fact that people can do anything. You can people can manipulate data. They can do financial models. I've seen people who've painted pictures in Excel. There's a Japanese artist who creates these beautiful landscape paintings just by going through and changing the color of each cell and zooming out. It's just, you can express yourself a lot more in it than I think people would think.
Anything you want to say to your legions and legions of fans and admirers, those who look up to you as a role model? That the list of those people are me mostly, but anything you would like to say to us?
I mean, it's bizarre having fans. I do very occasionally. I mean, I'm not under any sort of notion that I'm a big celebrity, but people do occasionally sort of stop me, especially when wearing my XL jacket in the streets, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I saw you on the news. It's really cool." So yeah, I'm very appreciative of all that.
Michael, you are a legend. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Thanks, David.
Michael Jarman is the spreadsheet king, nay, spreadsheet emperor, and the winner of the Excel World Championships. That is the show. Thank you for listening to it. Do not forget to subscribe to our podcast. Details can be found at www.lastshow.pizza. That's lastshow.pizza, not .com. No sage-like wisdom tonight. No sage-like wisdom any night, but especially not tonight. I'm David Cooper, and this is, well, it's not the first show.